Welcome to the Shift podcast, where midlife, medicine, and mindset meet. We're breaking the silence around women's health and simplifying the path to feeling strong, clear, and better than ever. Hosted by me, Heidi Swap, with insights from Dr. Vaughn Watts and stories from real women. The Shift podcast is here to challenge the narrative, empower you with information, and create a new vision for your next chapter. Welcome back to the Shift podcast, and I'm really excited because me and Dr. Vaughn are welcoming one of my friends, somebody who has really blessed and changed my life. And I'm so excited to share her with you and introduce you to her because she is someone that you need to follow, someone that you need to listen to, because her insight and what she teaches is life-changing. And I know that firsthand, and I'm going to cry, but it's going to be fine. So I'm going to give you, so this is Ashleigh. And Ashleigh had to drive really far. How far away did you?
I think with traffic, a good 12 minutes.
Yeah. So she
sacrificed a lot to be here today.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Welcome.
It's so fun to have you in studio. I will tell you, a secret is that if you follow me on Instagram, you probably recognize Ashleigh because we have hiked all summer together, and it has just been a highlight. What hike has been your favorite?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. All of them. Honestly, it's just been doing it and having amazing women like you to carve out that time. And I know all of us, because we're all business owners, which we will work. And I love that we all decided like, this is the day we're going to go out in nature, do what we love, do it together. It's literally been the highlight of my summer/early fall.
Literally, you get a text from Ashleigh at like 8:43 on Monday morning. And she's like, okay, Friday, what time? Where are we going to be? And I'm like, that is like a week away.
There's my type A coming out right there.
You're a planner.
I'm a planner.
So
when do you hike? What day do you hike?
Friday.
On Friday. But
that's good. Well, she wants to make sure she's not missing it.
She's just visualizing it. She's manifesting it.
There you go.
And I'm like getting it down to be like, no, this is happening.
This is a non-negotiable. It has become so great. I met Ashleigh, and you guys have probably heard me talk a little bit about Movara, which is this fitness resort. You've got to come. You've got to get your wife. We've got to get you down there.
She would be happy
because you guys would love it. We met almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there was kind of a week that they did, which they brought individuals that are like, I guess, thought leaders and community growers in health and wellness for women. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess there was one guy, Bruce, was there.
That's right. Yeah,
Bruce.
And now Bruce actually works at Movara.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is awesome. And so I got there and so I thought it was like an influencer week, which gives me the most anxiety. First of all, don't call me an influencer because I just get
You are an influencer,
weird.
Whether you like it or not. You're an influencer.
For good,
yes,
right? We got to redefine what that means for us.
And so I was just prepared for like a lot of people just making content. I don't know. I was not prepared to walk into a room full of women who had life-altering experiences that through their absolute depths of hell had gone through, climbed out, and were now using that to change the world. And Ashleigh is one of them. And so I'll read her bio, but on the very first day, Ashleigh and I end up walking together on the hike. Do you remember this?
Of course. It was meant to be.
I said so many swear words.
See, this is why we get along so well.
I attest. And you kept apologizing. I was like, listen, no, you're fine. We're done.
I was a raging hornet's nest of anger.
It's true.
And it had, like, I had never let it out like that, especially not to a stranger. So this tells you that Ashleigh must have this energy that allows people to do that, because I was even like, did I just say that out loud? What is happening? And it was like confessing to like your pastor, your Catholic priest or something like that. I was just like spewing to her, not knowing what she did for a living, not knowing her past, not knowing anything. I just was like a pimple that needed to pop. And I just popped and popped and popped that whole week. And I didn't know what was going on with me, but immediately Ashleigh knew. And that was one of the things that blew my mind, is how I was in a place of so much need, and somehow everything just came together to help me figure it out right when I needed to pop, right at the volcanic eruption. And I'm just forever grateful. So I'm here doing this podcast. Literally, I wouldn't be here doing this if I hadn't had interactions with Ashleigh and the things that she taught me. And I say that in a very I'm super dramatic, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And in a very short time realized, oh, okay, people need to learn more. And Ashleigh's somebody that needs to be exposed. And there's one thing, of the million things she taught me, and we'll get into this, I took it was supposed to be a 3-month course. I think I dragged it out to 16 weeks.
No, it's a continuation, right?
And now we hike and I just get free.
That's right. Become my friend. No.
And so we're going to kind of get into this, but of all the things that she taught me, the thing that I probably needed the most, that moved the needle the most, we're going to talk about today. So let me read your bio.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of get into her story. Okay. Ashleigh, what if I say your last name wrong?
It's totally fine. It's expected. Di Lello. You just call me Ashleigh, so
I try to say it fast. Di Lello, but Di Lello.
Di Lello, like Jello.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got this.
There you go.
All right. And it's a hard spelling. I know I keep discussing name spellings, but if you need to picture it in your mind because you can't remember things, it's the Ashleigh. It's the hard one.
It's like sleigh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, just for context.
It's the original British spelling, by the way, of the name Ashleigh.
See, we like to have the tough spellings. Mine is as well.
Is it? Yes.
Nobody spells my name. I think my name in 49 years has been spelled right. I'm not even kidding, twice ever that I can remember.
The only time in my life was when I lived in England.
Really?
And people would just write it that way. And the first time it happened, I was so excited. And the lady looked at me like some dumb American because I was like, that is my name. And she's like, yes.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And I'm like, no. First time in my life. And
it was an exciting moment.
Yeah, it was an exciting moment.
For me, it was last year. It was the first time in 48 years at that point. Somebody spelled my name right. And I looked at it and I looked at them like, you spelled my name right. They're like, oh, I'm like, that's never happened. It's never happened.
It's a moment.
It really is. You got to take it in.
That's right.
Funny. Okay. So she is the creator and founder of Bio-Emotional Healing. And we're going to loop back to that, but it's a pretty fancy name. It's a revolutionary method based in neuroscience that helps her clients around the world finally break free from emotional trauma, limiting beliefs, anxiety, the effects of chronic pain and illness. And despite being told by doctors she wouldn't live past her teenage years, she refused to give up and discovered the secret to rewiring the brain-body connection. She became an elite athlete, a TV and Broadway star, an entrepreneur, a brain coach, and a keynote speaker. And it gives me chills because I just know her, and you're just awesome.
Well, you let that all apart. So I went on last night to watch, just to get to know you better and stuff on your Instagram.
Yeah, I said you go
Dancing with the Stars. She's a big deal. She's done some pretty cool stuff.
Here's the thing: Dancing with the Stars is not even the big deal. It's the so you think you can dance. Because Dancing with the Stars, there's a lot of camera work. There's a lot of fog. they're.
Yeah, but you can either dance or you can't, and you can tell real quick.
It's true. Very true. Yeah. Well, they used to always tell us, especially on So I Think You Can Dance, when you had a minute and a half, right? And they're like, film is forever, right? No pressure. You know, like,
Right.
'cause when I was growing up, they're like, there's always another game, there's another performance or something, but they're like, film is forever. Good luck. I'm like, okay.
But see, I'm interested in the dance part. I think it's kind of cool. Believe it or not, I know most people are like, what? So me and my wife, we signed up like a few months back, and we're like, now we're coming to the fall, it's slowing down, but we signed up with the Fred Astaire Academy.
Oh yeah,
to do dance stuff.
I love it.
So when before I was in the Marine Corps, me and a buddy of mine, we would teach like East Coast, like jitterbug.
Yeah.
And back like in the late 90s,
You
there was
taught it?
in clubs. Yeah. Like there was actually a spot where there was
something new
like
every day.
people were like all dressed up. Like this is up in like Boise, Idaho. And it was like actually kind of a big thing for a while, like East Coast swing. And then he left for the Army. And like 6 months later, I ended up deciding to join the Marines. I show up months after that in Sierra Vista, Arizona, which is in the middle of nowhere, like 30 minutes from Tombstone. And I walk into the club that's on base, and I walk right into him. And he's like, "Hey, dude." And he's like, and I still have to wear my uniform because I'm brand new, so I'm wearing like the short sleeve dress like uniform.
Yeah.
He's like, "Dude, I taught a couple girls how to dance." So next thing you know, it's like filled with military guys, right? And me and him go on the dance floor. They turned like swing music on.
Why can't we have the video that lasts forever?
Oh, it's kind of funny because everybody clears off the dance floor like, oh, who ordered this music? And then me and him get on there and we start throwing these girls and stuff. And afterwards, all the Marines are like, dude, you guys look like a freaking Gap commercial out there.
They used to make great commercials with dancing.
They did back then. It was big. And so it was around the same time. So it was,
that is
so it was a lot
funny.
of fun. So when I saw the Dancing with the Stars, I was like, oh, that's cool. Because that was back in my younger days.
That's awesome.
So me and my wife are going to start doing that again.
I love it.
So we're excited.
It's
That's
good for
great.
your brain too.
So good
Dancing
for your
is
brain.
so good for your brain.
Great exercise. People don't realize how
Yes.
demanding it is.
There's no momentum. Every motion has to be created, right?
Yeah.
And change of direction and everything. It's a whole different type of endurance that if I were to try to do, I would not make it.
If you don't like working out, but you like dancing, just dance. That definitely is a workout for sure. So I digress.
As a dance mom, like
Yes.
I was never a dancer, but my daughters were dancers, and we would be in. I've got a favorite chiropractor that we take him to. Shout out to Pat at Ultimate Sports. Anyway, Pat would say, because they practice so much on drill, like so many hours of practice, he'd be like, you guys are the slowest learners. What is that? And it would make my girls so mad. Yeah.
No, they're just hardcore.
If you want to just offend a dancer, just tell her she's a slow learner. I'm like, no, they had to relearn that dance 49 iterations. Like,
Jeez.
It's hardcore. In Utah and Idaho, drill is like
ridiculous.
It's next level.
Well, and for everybody to look the same, it's a whole other thing than, athletics. Obviously, everybody knows certain plays and movements, but every game is different. And when you perform, it's the same and must be the same, because if somebody's off, it's very noticeable, right?
And there's your point.
It takes that repetition. The beautiful thing about that is it teaches you to understand repetition, which, just to segue obviously to my work with the brain now, if you want to change anything with the brain, you can't get away from repetition. That's how the brain learns. And so I'm grateful for that, because I think it was very pivotal later in life to embrace repetition. Because I think, unfortunately, today, just with how easy life is and convenient, we're kind of losing that just complete embracing of, I've got to do something different over and over and over and over and over again to change my brain, to change my behaviors, to change patterns, because our brain has been so conditioned to want immediate gratification, right? Not even just if it's just our ease of life, right? Food is delivered. Amazon is, I remember my daughter was like, oh my gosh, it's not going to be here till tomorrow, not same day, because she's 11, she's grown up. And I'm like, honey, I used to have to wait for mail for weeks, You
remember the Land's End catalog? You're like, I don't know.
It might show up,
Tracking, what is that?
Waiting for my CDs to show up in the mail.
and commercials were so long, so even like growing up, we had a different even conditioning, whereas now we almost have to expose people to things that require repetition. So we start to embrace like, oh, anything significant, I'm going to have to repeat over and over again, like to really master it. So not knowing, just obviously segueing, I'm grateful that dance taught me you have to do it over and over and perfect it and perfect it. And you think you know how to do it? Well, we're going to do it 10 more times, until it really gets embedded in your muscle memory, so that when I go out on stage or like in front of 10 million people where adrenaline is rushing, that I can do the same muscle memory. But that is only there when you've done it over and over again, because it becomes the default. Right?
And that applies for anything you want to become good at. Is the repetition. And we talked a little bit about, I was in Sierra Vista. I was at that was an Army intelligence base, and like back is 8 months of Morse code school. Okay. So I used to copy Morse code.
What did I say?
It starts like that, and then it goes faster and then faster and faster. And so you're sitting there, and then you also have to learn how to type. And so I remember the first day going like, oh my gosh, like I'm never going to learn this. Yeah. And then once you've learned it because of repetition, like that was a moment in my life where I realized, okay, anything I think is super hard, I can learn. It's just repetition. That's it. That's all it is. It's just repetition. And so no matter what it is, it comes down to repetition and having the willpower enough to continue, even when it seems like I'm never going to get this.
Yeah.
When you thought you were going to learn,
even when it's super boring, like learning Morse code.
And then they're like, Morse code. And you're like,
I went in actually.
I'm out.
So I speak fluent Spanish, and so I joined because I wanted to be a military linguist, and they said, "Oh, yeah, you can be a linguist." And we told this story before. And then when boot camp, they pulled me apart for special testing, unbeknownst to me, what that meant, and then they reclassed me into Morse code. And I'm like, "No, my contract says linguist." So like, that's a language. I'm like, you suckers.
No, I can't blame you. I'd be like,
come on. But then I got to go to a cool school after that, which was code breaking, cryptography and stuff. And so, but it was, monotonous and long. But then you realize when you hear something go sound like this, and to anybody else, it would sound like nothing. And here you are typing 70, 80 words a minute, and it's dits and das, and it's letters and numbers, and you think there's no way I could have ever done that. And it's like, yeah, you can. When I got through that, that was a moment in my life, literally, I realized, okay, I can literally do anything if I'm willing to put in the time to do it.
What a beautiful lesson that, I had to learn very early in life.
Which, that's the other thing. So I watched, like I said, I went on and stalked you a little bit because I gotta know about her. And so when I was listening to your story, I think
she's way too humble on Instagram, actually.
Yeah, and so
that's just a personal opinion.
So when I saw your story, and I know we're going to get into talking about what you do now, but I think it'd be really important for those people to hear your story from like how your life story from when you went through this as a child, and because it was the little snippet that I heard was super impactful, like just for me. So I'm actually excited to hear the unabridged story.
Yeah. So we'll start at the end because I work in neuroscience now, and the brain really helped save my life twice. And it's my greatest love and passion. And I love it because it is the greatest equalizer to our potential. Because the power we're going to talk about has nothing to do with intellect or talent. It's just the functionalities that we were all given, which I love, because I say this now as a premise to when you hear my story. What we all do is make ourselves the exception, because you're going to hear my story and you're like, yeah, that's her, right? That's her talent. That's her passion. That's her personality. And then there's me and my life and my challenges. And that's why I love the brain, because when you understand how it works, you understand you can access all the same things that I did to defy the odds of my life twice. And that's why I love it so much. So just take yourself out of that lingo as I tell my story, right? Of I can't do that in my life. So my life changed really early. I was 13 years old. I was nicknamed the Energizer Bunny. I love dance. Like I came out of the womb dancing. I was dancing 5 hours a day from when I was 7 years old, which now as a mother, I'm like, whoa, I can see why my parents kept wanting to ask me if I wanted to take a break. upon which I'd respond, why? Because I just loved it so much. I didn't understand. I never got tired of it. I just wanted to do it. It was just felt like that's what I was created to do. So when I was 13 years old and woke up overnight and could hardly move and had pain in every joint and muscle, not only did my life get ripped away from me, but the thing I loved to do, the thing that I felt born to do, which was a type of pain that's really hard to explain. If you haven't loved something so much that not only lose life, but you lose the love that gives your life its greatest meaning. It's like, well, why would I be created with such a love and such a talent only to lose it? I had no warning signs. It was literally the day before I was getting my braces on and my elbows were starting to throb. And I remember, because I was sitting in the chair going, this is weird. Maybe I've just been sitting in a weird position. And the next morning I was supposed to go to a dance conference. And I remember going in my mom's room and I couldn't even do a basic plie. I had a super high temperature. I was freezing, but I was hot. But you could hardly touch me. And, of course, that day I thought, well, I must have some powerful flu, right? There's nothing in my mind that is well, you're going to get better. This is really brutal, but we can all get really sick, right? Sinus infections, the flu can all be pretty awful. So in my head, I'm like, wow, this is bad, but I'm going to get better. I had no idea that was the start of 4 years where I would fight for my life. And you have to go back to that time frame again, like we were talking beforehand, right? This was 29 years ago. The world was so different. There was none of this. There was no Google. There was no social media, no podcasts, no YouTube, no exposure to people all over the world. Barely
even the web.
Right?
Yeah, like you said, functional medicine doctors,
No.
They were natural docs, but the whole functional
Voodoo.
medicine movement wasn't really a thing yet.
No. And you had to find out about people that way through word of mouth.
Yeah.
These yellow pages. And there was a...
Try explaining that one to your daughter.
So there used to be
this huge book. And I come from a Western medicine family, right? Which again, also was just the mainstream at the time. It was anything outside of that was the woman with dreadlocks, burning
Right.
incense. It was this just crazy
The
kind of
voodoo
idea.
stuff.
Voodoo.
Yeah.
So we, of course, went to some of the top hospitals across the country. I had every test scan you can ever think of. I remember praying, please.
because they couldn't figure
There was
no diagnosis.
There was no diagnosis. I literally was tested for anything you can think of.
What were your symptoms, just out of curiosity?
Oh my gosh, it really spread. So first, pain in every joint and muscle, stabbing back pains, I would just be sitting there and felt like there were knives going through me. I eventually started to have challenges with my short-term memory. And I remember being at dance and for the first time not remembering, because I fought through the first year to keep dancing. I was in and out until I got deathly
What
ill.
about energy levels?
Oh, I got to where I couldn't even lift a finger. Yeah.
As you're explaining all this, as a functional medicine doc, I'm just going, oh my gosh, all the red lights for Lyme disease are blinking like crazy.
And it's so interesting because I was diagnosed with that.
Were you?
But I think it was a misdiagnosis. I never treated Lyme, but that's a whole other story we could get into. But I was diagnosed with many things, misdiagnosed, because also people were trying to throw anything that stuck, right? Which I understand. Sometimes it's well, it could be this. And that's the hard thing with any autoimmune viral. There's so much crossover of symptoms.
There is.
My hair fell out. I lost a big bunch of my hair. My liver was shutting down. I was yellow. I got down to about 90 pounds and I was eating, but my body was not absorbing. But I really know what it's like to be dying. And this is when I really started to understand how powerful the brain was, because it first started, the doctor came in. This was at Primary Children's.
How old were you at the
13.
time? 13. Okay.
Because
So your 13-year-old daughter, now our girl, imagine, set the stage here, 13-year-old
13.
teenager.
Yes, barely.
Barely.
Right?
So just going through puberty, going through all these things, all these emotions, hormones.
Yeah, barely 13, which now I look at my daughter who's 11 and a half and I can't comprehend, right? But it's amazing what you can rise to when you have to. And I remember sitting there and the doctor came in and it was one of those really sterile rooms, right? There's nothing familiar. Those old gowns that ripped every time you moved. And I remember just feeling this heaviness as he came in And he rolled the stool up to my hospital bed and he said, you need to accept you're not going to live past your teenage years.
I mean, it doesn't get any heavier than that. Like, holy cow.
I mean, every emotion you've ever felt, like in one moment, and shock and disbelief, and like, wait, I was the Energizer Bunny, I was the epitome of health. Like, wait, this can't be my life, right? I thought I was really sick and I was going to get better. You have a rare viral infection. No one can diagnose or treat. We're not sure where your organs are shutting down, but you're never going to be able to dance again, right? And it's interesting because he didn't stop there. He was like, you know, you're never going to get married, never be able to have kids. And the sooner you accept this, the easier it's going to be to come to terms with your reality.
As a father, I just sit there going, if I was in that room, I probably would have smacked him right off of that chair.
100%.
But even
that's
at that
heartbreaking
time,
to say something like that.
Even at that time, at Primary Children's Hospital, you would never question.
Well, yeah, he was the expert, right? And it was validated by my reality, right? And so we're not discounting, like, I was dying. Definitely, like, I know what it's like to literally have too much, not have enough strength to lay still. I remember telling my mom, this is taking too much energy for me to just lay here. Like, I am exhausted laying here. I had days where I literally couldn't speak. I couldn't lift a finger. Days I'd be so frustrated because I had to try to read and I couldn't hold a book. So I was dying. I could feel it. I knew
your skin was yellow, like you were into that, like you were going into liver failure. You were literally dying, I
was. Sure. In my room, you could even smell it, you know, and so that seemed very validated, right? And no one could figure me out. You went to the Mayo Clinic. I mean, we did everything, you know, my parents threw everything in the kitchen sink at it. And I credit my mom because, yes, as a mother now, man, I would be all over that. She gave me space to respond. I mean, my mom's my hero. I wouldn't be alive without her. But I really credit her for letting me respond first because it was my journey, right? Like, no one could fight for my life for me. And I remember just trying to grapple with this reality and just knowing one thing, which, again, by the way, we had none of the information then that we do now, right? If you want to know anything about neuroscience, you had to go take out a book, right? And a study. There's nothing. There was nothing.
We know 100 times more about the brain now than we did even 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Right.
And it's still, we don't know very much.
Still, right? Just even really in the last 10 years of being able to functionally have MRIs of the brain and see people alive, right?
Yeah.
And what the brain is doing when we're alive. But I just had this feeling deep, deep inside that my life was supposed to be greater than 13 years on this earth. And so I only knew one thing to say. I just looked at him and I said, I don't accept this. And we walked out.
Which is just crazy.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have 3 daughters, 17, 19, and 23, and they're going to listen to this episode 100%. So I'm so excited we're not even halfway through, and I'm already excited just thinking about my daughters are listening to this episode. It's so empowering.
Yeah, and people are like, well, how did you? And I'm like, I don't know. I just, in that moment, again, and I'm a person of faith, and I believe we were created for specific reasons. And I just knew deep, 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 deep down inside, like, if I just accepted this, then any chance of survival was gone. And I remembered, because what happened next was they sent in a psychologist to talk to me, because they said I was living in denial of my reality. And I remember looking at this psychologist, with all due respect, I told her, I said, listen, I'm not living in denial. I know I'm dying. Like, I know better than any of you. I can feel it. And I am so scared. But I also know if I just accept that I'm dying, then I will die. And I want a chance of survival. And so I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how, but I just know that if I go out, I'm going out fighting. And I'm going to give my body any chance it has to survive. And we walked out of that hospital not knowing, right?
Were your parents, by the way, in the room when you were saying these things?
My mom was.
Like, proudest parent moment ever to listen to a child with that much strength.
I don't know.
Did she have the same?
Amazing.
Did she have the same response? Like, I don't accept this.
100%. Yeah. And my mom, and that's where I think she knew, because obviously my mom and I have always been so close, but I really credit her because she let me define right then. And I had to redefine it over and over again, right? As I would fight for my life for years, because we think, well, I made that decision once. I had to remake it every day, right? And sometimes 10 times a day when I was so exhausted and was so defeated and the journey felt impossible. But my mom, absolutely, she was like, we will find the answer. We will find the solutions. And that's where after 2.5 years of everything, in the medical world, we went to more alternative, holistic, which, because we literally ran out of any options. And they essentially just sent me home to die because they didn't know what to do, right? And that's when, again, now that is all streamlined and understood, it was very, very like radical. Like, what are you doing for your child? What is this thing? Homeopathic medicine, supplementation, even diet, then nutrition. It was a total different world. Like,
very different.
It's very understood now. But I went, literally, food became life or death to me. Like, does this food support my immune system or does it take away energy from my immune system? And that literally was how I had to eat. It was like, my immune system needs every single chance of doing its job.
You're eating for fuel, not for food.
That's right. Yeah. And I was young. And that's where, again, the discipline of dance was also very helpful, because I had already just practice these habits of dedication and discipline. And I wanted to live. So that pizza or that ice cream, just didn't hold importance to me in the way of like, this is my life. And it was very extreme, but that was my reality. And it served me because it gave me a perspective of what I wanted more. And I'm not saying it wasn't hard and I didn't have a notebook of all the foods I would eat one day when I was healthy. And that's a whole other discussion. So I was a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old and I wasn't normal, right? It was hard because all my friends were like living the life, eating whatever they want, super healthy, and I'm like, oh, I can't, if I eat that, my immune system's going to shut down for 3 hours. What does that mean for my health? So we did everything from that perspective, but really where the brain came in is I was so sick to dying that some nights I was afraid to go to sleep. I really was afraid if I surrendered that conscious will to live, that my body would just not make it. And not because it didn't love me and not because it wasn't fighting for me, but because it was dying. And it was so hard and so exhausting. So I would stay up and will my body to keep living through the night. And they were some of the most terrifying moments of my life, but also the most empowering, because I firsthand witnessed how powerful the brain is and in its communication to the body and the will to live. And I know, obviously, doing everything I did from a physical standpoint was essential and necessary. And I don't think I'd be here today without the huge role my brain played in willing my body to keep fighting, to living, to believing it could, believing it was possible, believing I could heal, that we could beat this virus that we didn't even know exactly what I had, but that the immune system and its intelligence, right, could do what it was designed to do if I just supported it, both from a physical and a mental aspect. And there's a lot to this story, but 4 years I fought between life and death, 6 years until I was able to go back to dance. And some symptoms took about 10 years to fully resolve. But after 6 years, I was healthy enough to go back to dance, which was miraculous in and of itself, because I was out of dance from age 14 to 20.
Because what year did you participate in So You Think You Can Dance?
I was 26.
Which is
old.
For
So You Think You Can Dance. Yes, I'd already graduated college. My husband was also on the show, although we weren't partners. We were the only married couple that's ever made the show. And we both went to the finale. We had different partners. So we weren't partners on the show, made it separately, competed against each other because, 10 women, 10 men make the show. So we were already mom and dad, because a lot of the dancers between 18, 22, 23, we had already graduated college. We were married, which
you'd already toured a lot.
We'd already toured. It served us though mentally, right? Because we were more mature in terms of just not just straight out of the home. So we could handle the pressures better, the judgment. But if you think about it, in any professional athlete, dancer, your most pivotal years are your adolescence. Because your professional career is short because of just what it does to your body and when you're at your peak performance, right? And so I didn't get back to dance until I was almost 20 years old. And so 6 years later to be on a show where over 10,000 people audition.
That's pretty remarkable in itself.
But you got to just, for a second, just talk about like your mental rehearsal.
Yes. And that's the amazing thing is the brain and its power, I think was just always a part of me because I accessed it in a way no one told me to. But we hear this, but I want you to like really embrace
it now,
this.
But nobody was really talking about it. It was like a natural response for you.
No
which
one.
Is crazy.
But this is what's beautiful. This is what I mean. The mechanisms are there, whether we know it or not. But if we know how to use it, then obviously we magnify it. We hear it all the time. The brain is wired to validate beliefs. Right. That's just a real thing. Like it doesn't matter. Literally. Whatever you believe, the brain is going to work to prove it right, to seek out evidence, to validate it. That's why it's so important to be like, what do I believe about myself? Right? What about my potential? If I say I'm stupid, I will be stupid. If I can't learn something, if I'll never achieve that, you need to it's not just something people say, that you're literally programming your brain to go, these are my parameters of possibility. I will keep you here. No matter your efforts, this is what you have said is possible. That's why it's so important to not adopt limitations from others and really take radical stewardship over what am I thinking? Because beliefs are what we repeatedly think, right? Repeatedly say. That eventually becomes a belief, right? So at that time...
You are right. It can be adopted from what someone tells you and says, oh, you are this. Oh, you are this.
Yes.
You are...
And I always tell people, what you say out loud, your brain doesn't know the difference between if you're joking or not joking. Nope. And so that's why I always tell, don't self-deprecate. I know you think it might be funny, but don't self-deprecate because your brain doesn't know the difference between when you're being facetious, you're saying the words.
Yes.
And your brain will believe it.
Yes. And what you say out loud, the brain pays attention to almost 10 times more than what you say inside, because what you vocalize, your brain says, this is extra important. So think about that as well. It definitely matters what we say inside of ourselves, but what we vocalize, the brain goes, oh, this is important. Pay attention, right? Which is why they encourage people to speak positive things out loud.
You write them down.
Yes.
You read them, you say them. So you're using all the different senses, for affirmations, manifestations, you're using all the different senses. Other than taste. I mean, don't lick the sticky note.
I'm going full out. I don't care. All the senses. I would be that, right? I'd be like, what else can I do?
Whatever it takes.
No, but it really is important though, because we had a conversation before we even started the podcast about affirmations and manifestations and I remember doing this, like I said, early on in life and not even realizing I was doing that. And I didn't realize till almost 24 years later that I had manifested something and I didn't even remember until the moment it happened. And that's when it clicked. And the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, if I would have known how to do this deliberately earlier on, where would I be now? Right. So it's becoming more and more popular, or people are understanding that affirmations and manifestation, all those things are real. But there's more to it than just writing it down. You do need to read it. You need to say it out loud so your body, your brain can hear it.
Well, and what you were doing is actually next level.
Yes. And then what I would say with that, and then I'll talk about what I did, is you need to then intentionally act in your life in alignment with that, right? Because people are like, I am this. And then the rest of the day, they're not acting in alignment with that, because your brain also needs evidence, right?
It's trying to prove itself right.
It's trying to prove itself right. So you also have to intentionally be like, well, I can't speak one way and act another. How can I start taking incremental actions in my life to move me in alignment with what I'm saying I am or who I'm becoming? And that part is sometimes missing, right? And then you get the power of both. But at that time during my illness, the one thing, some doctors said, well, you might survive, right? But you're going to be sick the rest of your life. And there's no way you're ever going to have the physical capacity to dance, right? And again, seemed pretty validated. I could hardly lift a finger. I was in a wheelchair to go places because I didn't have the strength to walk. Dancing is incredibly physically active, strength and endurance and all of the things. So I didn't see any evidence of reality, but I had this belief, and there was the gift of having something I loved so much that I would dance again. Somehow, some way I would dance again. That's a belief. So beliefs, your brain tries to find evidence of. Again, this is all just happening. I don't know this. I don't know consciously. I just am like, no, I'm going to dance again. I know it. So my brain, therefore, is like, okay, let me find some evidence. There's no evidence in your reality that you're going to dance again. So let me find some intrinsic evidence. So no one told me to do this, but my own brain, just because that belief was so strong, it was like, well, I'm going to start dancing in my mind. So while I was going through
you were visualizing
I was
that?
visualizing. Didn't even have a name for it, right? Again, no one talked about this.
Nobody. This is so weird. Back then, this would have been like so weird.
Yeah, like, are you okay? Are you losing your mind, right?
Yeah.
So I remember I was in all these MRIs and scans and tests, and I just started using that time rather than just laying there to dance. And I would go through class and technique, and then I'd see myself on stage, and then ballroom is a competitive sport, so I'd see myself on the competition floor. And I remember one MRI in particular, because I was just practicing this, and the brain gets better at whatever it practices, for good and bad, right? And I remember one time I was in this MRI, and I would just started crying. And the technician, I remember, beeped in, was like, "Are you okay? Are you doing okay? Is something wrong?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. These are happy tears." And I'm sure he was very confused because I was in an MRI. I'm dying, deathly ill. But it was because I was not visualizing dancing from what I had lost, right? Because then that would make me sad. And I did have those moments, but it was so real to me that I felt that unbelievable joy and gratitude at doing what I had loved so much again, that I was crying because it felt so real. And we know now that is brain-heart coherence. The heart has 40,000 neurons. It literally is another brain. And when we can bring those together, so I wasn't just creating, I was feeling as if this was happening in this moment, that brain-heart coherence truly changes physiology, right? And starts registering in your nervous system that this is real. This is something that you have experienced.
You know, back then they didn't even know, they didn't, there wasn't even a belief that there were neurons outside of the brain.
Yes, I know.
And now they know that there are neurons in your stomach and your heart. There's that story of the little girl that got the heart transplant. Did you ever hear that?
Yes.
And they caught a killer from it. Have you heard that story?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's wild. We'll talk about it later, but my point is,
it opened up.
There's neurons that are located in the heart.
It's so fascinating to me that you were built like this, you know, and just really quickly, just to rewind to what you said earlier, that I think is really important that you do share when you, in your course and as a student. I don't think I believed it. I certainly didn't believe it at first, because we all know that I'm a slow believer. But when she says you don't have to be smart, this isn't an intelligence, this isn't a talent. This is just what everybody has access to. And when I was trying to factor into my life, and you explained this process, and I was able to think about it for myself in my work. Mm-hmm. But because my work is so tangible, you would think that would be more obvious, you know, because I'll think I want this product. I draw it out. I talk about its measurements, and then I pass it off to the designers. And then 9 months later, it gets shipped to my house. So I was doing it. I didn't know that I was doing it. And I think that's why it's so important to have this awareness that goes back to this, that we naturally, our souls We're creators.
We're creators. Absolutely.
And life just chips away at that.
Well, and then I would say we become really good creators at what we don't want unintentionally, because almost even growing up, how many times did you hear, well, what's the worst case scenario? Right? Like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, let's all talk about that.
So good at
and plan for it.
At
right?
doing that. Yes.
And I tell people, well, think about it. You are a creator. It's just we get conditioned to create from protection, from worst case scenario, because people do that all the time with panic attacks. You can be alone in your room, nothing is happening, but you're creating a scenario that your body starts to respond to as real, right? Your heart races, you might get faint, stomach, headache, clammy. That is the sign you're creating to where that brain heart coherence is happening. And your body's going, this is happening. No, it's not, right? So I'm having a panic attack over a scenario that I'm creating.
And you have that real fit. And that's the thing where people think there's like, okay, this brain stuff, affirmation, that's kind of voodoo. And it's like, okay, well, let's use a real life. This is a great example that your brain, your thoughts are creating a massive physiological response.
Right. That
can be measured in temperature, in sweat, in all of these things. You're putting yourself into fight or flight.
By thought.
And,
by creating.
And real fight or flight is you're being chased by a wild, a cougar or something, right? Yeah. And you're putting yourself in that same, like literally that same state of condition.
As a mom,
just with thought.
You have seen if you've had a child have a panic attack,
it's very real.
I've had this happen. You're taking that kid to the hospital. Like,
it's scary.
I had to call an ambulance and it turned out to be a panic attack. And I was like, was this real?
Think about how big of a physical response that is. So I think everybody here could realize that that's a real thing. Yeah. So why can't you do the opposite?
That's what I always say. So this is what I want you to embrace. I'm very good. Most people nowadays are very good at harnessing their brain in a very disempowering way. So if that's true, then the opposite is also true. We just have to go, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm actually really good at being a creator, but let me start creating about what do I want? What is possible? What is that dream on my heart? Not, okay, what's the worst case scenario? Let me plan for it and hope for something different. But meanwhile, I'm conditioning my brain to look exactly for the worst. What do I want to experience? What do I want to open myself up to possibility? How do I get brain-heart coherence there? So not from fear and lack and worry, but possibility, hope, that dream. Like, let me start creating that and registering that, because the brain seeks familiarity. So if we don't start exposing our brain to something new, something that's possible, and we start creating enough that it becomes familiar to our brain, then the brain's going to seek what it knows, right? Which is our present reality or our past reality. That's the strongest mechanism in the brain, is our past.
And
right?
those patterns
patterns.
Oh, well, this is just going to happen again because this is just my life.
This is my life.
What if you change your mindset? What if you just change your mindset instead of planning for the worst case scenario? I'm going to plan for the best case scenario. Because what do I want? I don't want the worst case scenario. Right. So why would I even be writing that down or worrying about it? I'm going to plan for the best case scenario. If the best case scenario doesn't happen, you know what's probably going to happen? Something just a little bit below it.
Yes. That's what I tell my clients, because everyone says, well, what if it doesn't? Because now my heart feels vulnerable. Okay. Because now I'm opening myself up and this is the brain saying, well, now I'm opening myself up and
maybe I'm going to be
disappointed. And that could hurt you.
Yeah.
And you need to know the brain cares just as much about your mental and emotional well-being as it does your physical. So anytime you open yourself up to possibility, the brain's alarm bells are activated to protect you emotionally. Because what if it doesn't work out? Oh, I don't want you to experience that. That's why let's prepare again for the worst, because then we're going to be prepared. The brain is a predicting machine. But I tell my clients, yes, of course, everything meaningful in life has vulnerability attached to it. Everything meaningful, every relationship, every job, every career, every dream, it has vulnerability attached to it. Every feeling, everything significant, right? Or you can live your life in a protective prison. That's a box, right? That is worse than the vulnerability. But when you start creating, again, your brain starts to see that possibility. And I tell my clients, yes, it might not look exact, But I can promise you, whatever it does end up will be much more in alignment with what you were creating either way. So just know what you're creating, your life will go that direction. So even if it doesn't look exact, what trajectory do you want to move forward? And I know it's complex. I have faced impossible. I went through another journey, lost the ability to walk. I know.
No, we're not going to just glance over. And I know we can't be here all day. And I would love for this to be a 5-part series, but we can't glance over.
Yeah, we need to hear it.
Here's Ashleigh. She's, you got first runner up on So You Think You Can Dance at that point.
And actually, before you even go into that, because this is going to be I want to stick on the feelings just real quick. I'm going to ask you a question. Have these big competitions you've had like success with?
Yeah.
What was that feeling like?
Oh, especially after what I went through.
Right.
It's so amazing because in many ways it felt like I'd already been there. You know?
But like, I'm talking like, I'm speaking more from like a joy, happiness. Oh. Like, had you felt that kind of joy or
when I was creating?
When you succeeded, when you got there and you won and you know, because then you think back, because you're talking about vulnerability, and that's a lot of people are like, well, I don't know that I want to go through that vulnerability. Right. Well, because you think about how amazing that feeling probably was when you succeeded, but how many times were you vulnerable and didn't succeed?
Sure.
Because in order to feel this great joy, you have to feel great sadness. 100%. In order to feel great happiness, you know, it's like you can only feel the level of positive emotion that you have felt in that negative emotion. Yes. You know, there's that yin and the yang, and vulnerability. As I always tell, and I talk with my wife, talk with my kids, is like we're in order. How does iron get stronger? It goes in the fire, they bring it out, they smash it, right? Mm-hmm. And every time they pull it back out of the fire, that sword is stronger and stronger and stronger. It's the same with emotions, feelings, life. You have to go through and experience hard things to truly experience the great joy. Because people have this just like, oh, what would that feel like to feel like? Well, you'll never know unless you've gone through the depths.
Absolutely.
First, because you can't have that true yin and yang unless you've been down here in order to get up here. And if you're only willing to go here, then the happiness you can experience can only be here.
Right. Yeah, no, I always say that, and you can attest to it. I always say the law of life is contrast. So the depths of my sorrow has eventually led to the vastness, right, of my joy. And there's a gift to that, because every day I have a level of gratitude that most don't.
She's very aggressively.
Simple thing. You can see it.
She's very aggressively grateful.
Well, you can see it.
I will say, and
just even at the grocery store when I'm like, guys, you see this? Look at me. I'm walking to our hikes. Like, I get emotional.
She does. She'll like be. She'll like all of a sudden start crying. She's like, I am standing on the top of a mountain, and we're like, yep, we are. Great job. And she's like, no.
Well, but that's a big thing, because it really is a mindset, and that's really what sets you apart. Because, you know, as a functional medicine doctor, I'm the last resort. They're not coming to me first.
They're coming in my area,
they're coming to me, and this hope is like almost gone. And one of the first things I tell patients is like, hey, I know that I can help you. And I know why you haven't been helped before, because these are the things that have been missed, but we're going to be able to help you. But the first thing is you have to believe it.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe it, and really
or at least open the door of belief.
Yes.
Well, because a lot of these people, they've been suffering with so long. Some of them, it becomes an identity, and it becomes 100%. A martyrdom.
Yes.
And then becomes bitterness. And so trying to open that heart back up and say, listen, this disease or this illness does not define you. And I need for you to at least believe that we can help you get better. Yeah. And that's the first step, because if you don't believe it, I can do a lot of great things and I can help you with a lot of things. But if you don't believe, I don't believe you can get better.
Yeah. It's so true. That's why the brain is the most.
And you're like, I look at you and there is zero of this like, woe is me. Look at all these hard things I went through. Like you're the exact, like the opposite, which you can feel it as soon as you walk in a room. We just met today, and you can feel the energy. You can feel the joy. Like she's a very happy person, like very happy. And
which is why I just dumped all my crap on her.
Well,
she can handle it.
And I will say that, like, I know what it's like to feel absolutely hopeless. I know what it's like to feel so defeated. I know what it's like to feel like I can't do this one more day. I know what it feels like to say, God, you're asking way too much of me. Like, I know what it feels like to feel life is so freaking unfair. Like, I'm a good person. Why do I have to go through this twice? Right? I know what it's like to lose what you love, to lose the ability to have more children, to lose your career twice. I know what it's like to feel angry and resentful. And I know what it's like to feel hope and love and gratitude and possibility and faith. And I'm grateful I know that other side, because it pushed me to become the person I am, and all those others. Like, the happiness is real. And Heidi will attest, I'm not about false positivity. I'm not a fan of it. I always say it's an and. Like, you can feel so afraid and determined. And where do you just put a little bit more of your energy, right? Because emotions are our teachers. I'm afraid because my life matters to me. This is hard. So let me learn from these emotions versus shame, guilt, suppress. I'm supposed to just be a fighter. And frankly, I had to go back and heal a lot, because when I was sick, I think this will segue into what I know you want to talk about.
Yeah, we want to hear the round two.
When I was sick, I did not allow any of the hard. If I wanted to cry, I would shut it down. And understandably, I had very limited energy. So I felt like I only had resources to fight, to be positive, because I felt the weight of the world on myself. Like, if I
there was plenty of negativity around you. And so you were having to offset it.
And I had my own fears, right? And I had my own sadness. I lost the ability to do what I loved for 6 years. I was supposed to go and move to England and train with the world champions. Like, I had a pathway, and it was all just taken. And I watched all my friends and my peers just succeed, which was amazing. But I didn't allow for all the hard. That my body held on to that for me, just beautifully, until it was time to work through it. And I had to learn to honor that other side, because I was just like such a fighter and so determined. And I felt like at that time it meant you weren't allowed to acknowledge the sadness and the hard. And so my body held on to that for me, until I had another experience that allowed me to work through that, so that I could process out the impact of my first experience. Because there was a huge impact. I mean, you hear the phrase fight or flight. Well, when you almost die for 4 years, your nervous system gets hardwired.
Yeah, you're in constant state of fight or flight.
And in reality, this isn't created. This is, I'm afraid to go to sleep. I'm being sent home to die.
That's great.
Every moment. And so compassionately, no wonder, it was a reality. But then even once I survived, I didn't understand that my nervous system was like, okay, look, what I did worked. Let's stay in fight or flight 24 hours a day, subconsciously. I didn't have anxiety. I was like, let's go live life. I was going after my professional career and my academics. And I was like, seize the day. Life is a gift. But my system, which translated into a lot of injuries into my professional career, translated into just perfectionism, where I cried when I got my first A- in college. Just this rigidity of perfectionism.
We feel sad.
I know, it was tragic. And it was so crazy, because consciously, even as I was sobbing back to my apartment, I was like, this is so stupid. But deep in my system, it was like, no, if you're not perfect, we die.
I can't let it. I
didn't know that. I didn't understand that. I was like, why do I have such this need to be perfect? And there's always a need, right? And that's where we have to do the deeper work to understand that. It just was like, consciously, if someone else got an A- in college, I'm like, amazing. When I'm like, failure and not acceptable.
Well, with your first experience that you went through during that moment of your life, the need for perfection was necessary.
It was necessary. Exactly.
And then as you came out of it, that just kind of built into your personality.
Yes.
But I mean, at that moment, it was necessary, because there was no room for, not even one bit of wiggle room to be anything different.
It became your default.
100%, without me knowing, right? And again,
but that is the definition of default.
Yes. It's just like, okay, this is what I do.
This is just how it is. And that's the patterns, and it's the
survival.
And interestingly enough, we all have default. And this is what we're asking ourselves collectively to do, is say, okay, what is the workaround? What is the shift that needs to happen so that I can access more?
Yes. And let's just say, again, this is universal to each of us. The default is formulated by your life, through your life experiences, what you went through, what you survived, what you consumed, like what's your relationships, the thing that hurt you, the thing that altered your life, like all of that. Your brain is creating a data bank of, okay, this is what is safe. This is who we are. This is what we do. And that happens automatically. You have, like, if you're not consciously deciding, your brain is deciding, and it's supposed to do that. It's the command center.
It's how we conserve energy,
we're teasing this way too long. I have to know. I'm sure everybody else listening is going, what happened the second time?
Okay, and then we'll get into the really important shift.
Dr. Von Watts, chiropractor and founder of Foundational Wellness, shares his insights on how the body functions as a whole system, along with the principles he uses to help people get on the path to better health. Please remember, the information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended to replace medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Every person is unique, and your health decisions should always be made in consultation with a qualified healthcare professional who knows your individual circumstances. Neither Dr. Watts nor this podcast is responsible for any actions you choose to take based on the discussions in these episodes.